Good morning, everyone. A very happy Friday to you. Before we begin, and as we wait for some people to come into the room, first allow me to present my apologies for the state of my hair. It's raining today, and that bit of moisture in the air has persuaded each individual strand to, oh, excuse me. But what it's done is every single hair is just kind of doing its own thing. I was not coughing earlier this morning. Apparently, the sudden return of moisture has taken my poor throat that was totally adapted to our drought and has caused a few problems. So please bear with me as I get through this little hurdle. All right, let's see if we can do this. So, first of all, glad tidings. Saw this post that said there is a massive rise in paganism and related religious movements in the West. And it provided a stat of American pagans in 2001 was 134,000. I mean, not too bad considering how recent the pagan revival has really been, especially in America. But then it has a stat for American pagans in 2023, and it's 1,500,000. I think we just need to take a moment, give ourselves a good round of applause, pat ourselves on the back, congratulate each other, shake hands, hug, do all the things, because apparently, despite having no centralized authority, despite having a very wide disparity of views regarding doctrine, the nature of the gods, theories of divinity, opinions about practices, what holidays we should embrace, how we should do things, what is magic, how do we do all of these various things. And still, despite all of that confusion, despite all of that chaos, we are growing and our numbers are going up. This says a great deal. A couple of months ago, I actually did a podcast that I think I titled "Pagans Are Like Wildflowers," and I said, we've just got to keep spreading our knowledge. We don't have to convert anyone. We just need to make sure that these ideas are out there in the ether, and that'll scatter the seeds of all the wildflowers, and people will blossom from that naturally. And if these numbers are to be believed, apparently that is absolutely the successful approach. So things are going well. Now, then the poster goes on to complain that there are currently more pagans than Presbyterians in the United States. So, want to comment on that part right now. If someone really believed in freedom of religion, provided that person's religion didn't give them an urge to conquer and overthrow the established society, what difference could it possibly make? Why is that a problem if there's a different religion as opposed to another? Again, provided it has Western values and believes in the Constitution, I mean, what's the problem there? So that already betrays that he has a certain view of our society, and then if things aren't matching up with that view, he's going to pitch a conniption. And then his final statement on this topic was, "Our nation is turning from Christ to demons." Now, I am happy to say that many of our brothers and sisters stepped in at that point and they said, no, demons and your perception of that kind of malefic energy, that's a you thing. That's part of Abrahamic religion. We have rejected all of that. We don't believe in your Satan, certainly not in the way that you describe. He's not someone we deal with. We're just not part of your paradigm and your worldview. We are turning to our ancestors. We are turning to the gods. We are turning to traditional philosophies and practices. And we're just trying to bring that into the modern world and figure out how that's all going to work. That's what we're doing. What you're doing, that's someone get this person a cup of tea. I mean, he needs jasmine. He needs something to calm him down. And we might need to go get him some tranquilizers. And I'll also, while we're at it, we need to get him a few history books and a few books about actual pagan religious practices, theology, and philosophy, because this kind of distorted view, this is really is inexcusable at this point. And it just shows that how little that logic and reason has to do with religious matters. It's his way or the highway, as it is with so many monotheistic religions. They're not interested in saying, these are just people who disagree with us. These aren't people who are trying to hurt us. These aren't people who are even interested in us at all. He can't quite come to grips with that. He's in this spiritual battle between himself and the forces of Satan, who, he categorizes us as that, as ridiculous as it is. And so he's throwing a hissy fit. Now, I have mentioned before that I think that because of COVID and because of the churches complying with requests to shut down, with individuals perhaps not taking the initiative and having personal worship time and family worship time, they didn't actually live their faith because there was a concern about an illness. I think there's a lot of Christians out there that do have very guilty consciences because the test of COVID, it revealed to them and it revealed to everyone else the actual state of their spirituality, and that's frightening. And of course, it's so much easier to convince other people to change than it is to actually address your own junk. And I think we will see some of that, and it may be intense for a little while. But I do not think that these are the people who will carry the day. I don't even think that their little brother Islam's going to carry the day either. I think there is a sense in the Western world, it is a sentiment that is growing that's just say, we are just done. We are done with the whole Abrahamic sphere. Go sort out your issues amongst yourselves. It has really nothing to do with us, and we are tired of getting dragged into your whirlwind and your spiritual battles. We have our own things to attend to. We don't need to get dragged into your controversies. People are just really, really done, and I do expect to see that grow in the coming decades. And not everyone who believes Christianity is going to automatically become pagan, but I bet we will see a lot of spiritual paths that might be considered pagan adjacent or are at least friendly or not in absolute contradiction to actual paganism. And that's very much the benefit of not just ourselves, but honestly to the benefit of society. You want to see some restoration of sanity prevail, you are going to need to go back to religions that have principles that are actually built to live on earth and deal with things how they are on earth, and not be in such a rush to try to control what other people need to be doing. That it's going to have to be something that says, your how things are going in your life. That's something you have to own and take responsibility for. It's going to be your work that makes the difference. If we want to see the restoration of sanity in the Western world, I'm sorry, Christians, you need us. You really do. I mean, even if you tried to really rid the Western world, which your great grandfathers in the church, they certainly did try this all those generations ago. But if you really wanted to eliminate all traces of paganism, it's not just removing existing monuments that have survived the last purge. It's not just removing the myths and the legends. You're going to have to rename every single day of the week. You're going to have to completely rethink your religious calendar, because if you want to remove every trace of influence that paganism has had upon Christian celebrations, you're not going to be left with much at all. You're going to have to remove social customs. You're going to have to deconstruct the whole of Western society. And the last time I checked, Christians were kind of pissed that the woke were doing that. So maybe, just maybe, instead of seeing us as these terrible foes you must overcome, maybe you need to take a more reasonable outlook and start seeing us as allies to preserve the things that we have in common in the Western world. Maybe we could do that. Just saying, just saying. But on the whole, this is all very good news for us. Now I want to bring you to the state of the DisUnion. I don't know if you went to the effort of watching Biden's State of the Union speech before Congress last night. Those of you who did, I'm very curious. Did you turn it into a drinking game? And are you still hungover this morning? Because depending upon what you did, I mean, I can imagine people getting very sloshed very, very quickly. I mean, he started late to begin with. The story was, well, there was this big protest in the streets, as if the Secret Service and the local DC police couldn't have cordoned off that area well ahead of time. If there was a disruption that was allowed to the point where the presidential motorcade couldn't get through, it's because that was being allowed. He was late on purpose. He made us all wait on purpose. And seeing just the fanfare that went on in Congress last night, all of them being announced and, them kissing and hugging and all of these various things, it was the most appallingly collection of, less than average people of unremarkable abilities all gathering together to congratulate themselves on how special they are. No, no, they're not. They really are not, and it was rather disgusting to see such a parade. I mean, at least if you had a gathering of people who had built successful companies or who were well known for the quality of their scholarship or some kind of actual real achievement, you could understand a little bit of modest fanfare because these are people who actually did something remarkable. They might actually be worth admiring, or at least what they were able to achieve might be worth admiring, despite any personal shortcomings they have. But to have all that fuss and bother over politicians, I mean, this is supposed to be a democratic republic. I think it is a fascistic regime, given the way the affairs have been conducted in recent decades. But we're still pretending to be a democratic republic. So I find it really improper, the form in which this takes. And then when Biden finally did wander in, I mean, it took him forever to get up the aisle. People were smiling and cheering and wanting to take selfies. And, you got to give the Democratic Party for getting people to follow their marching orders, of presenting this illusion of, oh, Biden's actually beloved. It's just his opposition that's so cold and cruel to him, as if the Democrats wouldn't sell him up the river if it would benefit them politically in some way. I mean, it's just the lie of it, the transparent, pathetic lie that no one even bothered to try to sell properly. Now, I'm not going to go over anything about his speech. There's plenty of political pundits who will be going into quite a bit of depth and detail on that. What were outright lies, what was grossly misrepresented, just all of the ins and outs of that. So I don't feel like I have anything that I really want to add to it, besides just if you listen to his speech and you disagree with him about anything at all, the only thing you could come away with is just he hates you. He hates everyone who disagrees with him about anything, and he's all but calling Americans who do not see things his way as essentially domestic terrorists. And I think that is what his opposition is desperately trying to work up people into a frenzy into believing. So if they were to take violent action against their opposition, that there would be at least their personal tribe that would go along with that. I mean, this is not the conduct of people who are actually in control. And the only thing I'll also say about the speech itself is that I was reminded of that quote from Star Wars. The more you tighten your grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers. So keep it up. Keep it up. But well, we don't have a real State of the Union. We do not have a union in an increasingly real sense. Now, the other day, I forget what podcast I was listening to, so I wasn't able to pull up the exact same graphic that they used. But they were talking about the percentages of people per state that favor the idea of secession, of us saying, let's break up, maybe let's have an alliance for mutual defense or for trade. But beyond that, maybe we just need to kind of go on our merry way. And maybe the best thing would be for us to not deal with each other. We don't think the same way. We don't believe the same way. We do not have the same sense of shared reality anymore. Rather than allowing our conflict to get to a nastier level, why don't we just break up? I mean, it's very clear everybody wants to. Even in the graphic I was able to pull up, it divided everything by region. Every single region has participants in the poll in double digits rates who are saying, maybe it has come time to just go our own ways. And then the graph that I saw that had the percentages per state, it was still in the double digits for every single state. I mean, everyone. This is covering the entire political spectrum, every ethnic group, every religion that people profess to be in this country. Everywhere you look, people are just saying, nah. Now we tried. We did our best, but I don't think I can be married to you anymore. I mean, this is very much the vibe that I'm getting. And surprisingly, and I wish I could have tracked this graphic down so I could prove it to you, but it was the state of Alaska that has the highest percent of secessionist sentiment. Now, you can try to force things through legal mechanisms or through military action to force this union to stay together as much as you want, but I just do not see how you are going to successfully keep Humpty Dumpty together. I don't see how you're going to prevent things from falling apart when people are I mean, this is what comes of sowing the seeds of chaos. You people have been trained to think that everyone who disagrees with them, that no matter how minor it is, that it's just this irreconcilable difference. And you can only put forth that message unrelentingly for so many years before it takes root and people say, "Yeah, okay, fine. Let's do this. Let's split apart, go our own way. Don't care anymore. Don't just do not want to deal with this." And and that's not to say that everyone has fully thought through what the likely consequence of a breakup of the United States would really be. But I will say that there comes a point in time where people do not care what the consequences are. They just want the matter done. They just want to have something that is not the stagnating status quo. They want to at least try something different, because something different, at least it's not what has been. And I think that we are still hurtling towards that point, for good or for ill. I mean, there are ways that this could end, if not amicably, at least in a way that will be satisfactory to all parties involved. There are pathways forward to that. There are pathways forward to there being a one side or the other just conquering and subduing the other. That's certainly a possibility. That would be much bloodier and much nastier. We don't want to go that route if we can avoid it, for sure. And there's possibilities for everything in between. So there are choices to be made, and no matter what your own personal feelings are about it, I would suggest sow the seeds of your intentions now, because we are running out of time to find an exit ramp that does not lead to some very nasty worst case scenarios. So whatever you can do, whether it's raising your voice politically, doing some work magically, getting together with your neighbors, whatever it is, whatever outcome you are working towards, now is the time to try to get a little bit of substance towards that intention, because this cannot go on forever. It won't. It just won't. So the other thing I want to chat with you today before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your Friday is the fact that I am looking for my fellow Lokeans. It is time to have some podcast form discussions about Loki, their experiences, what motivated them to investigate him, why they decided to work with him, what they have to say about the objections that are frequently brought up by people who take a very dim view of Loki. One of the things that always bothers me when the subject of Loki comes up in pagan discussions is that people who do work with him are so often on the defensive. And that just isn't a good thing in general. It certainly doesn't allow a person to be able to present their case in a calm and a rational fashion, because you're already being attacked. It's already being assumed and put forth that, oh, you're wrong. You're up to no good. This is all very bad. Oh, you LARPer. We had to get rid of people like you from the community. We reject you, all this other stuff. And that just has not exactly been conducive to discussion. I'm tired of it. I'm done with it. Now, a couple years ago, I did an ongoing series on my channel where every single week I was covering some topic related to Loki and related to my growing experiences with him, my relationship with him. And then there came to a point where he said, okay, that'll do for the present. And now he's giving me the nudge again of saying, yeah, it's time to reach out to other people who also work with him, who have perhaps even more longstanding relationships with him, because I've only been working with him for a few years. Other people, this has been a decades long process for them. So it's time for us to hear our voices. It's time for us to present our side of the argument, and it's time for us to not be on the defensive about it, or having to walk people back away from the objections that they bring up, because that's where a lot of the discussions go wrong. Someone puts forth a premise, says Loki is awful, and then we're having to work backwards from there. No, 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 no. Let's start on neutral ground and just say, hey, this is how things unfolded for me. This is what I have learned. This is why I think that he is different from his reputation of being this one-dimensional mustache twirling villain. I think it's time for us to really claim our territory within the faith, actually, and to present our side of it, and to do so in a reasonable fashion, because that's the other thing. It's very easy to find followers of any deity who, let us say, are not exactly the best ambassadors for their viewpoint. It's easy to do that. What's harder is to find people who are respectable, who are reasonable, and who are also willing to talk and to present their side of things. So I'm this is going out as a call. I have already been in contact with one lady through Twitter. She's been a Lokean for a number of years, longer than I have. And when I brought up this idea to her, she was very receptive to it. I have this morning I sent off just kind of a basic outline of, here's what I thought we might talk about, asking for her feedback as well as issues that she wants to bring up. And I'm hoping that once she and I get things together, because I want to present something a little bit more prepared and a little bit less off the cuff. I want us to be able to have a very productive discussion. And that, of course, requires preparation. But once we bring that to you, I don't want that to be the last discussion. Hopefully, if it goes well with her and I, not the last discussion between me and this lady, and not the last discussion between me and other Lokians. I think we do need to show ourselves and give our fellow pagans, our fellow heathens, our fellow witches who do not have a close relationship with Loki, who do not understand him in the way that we do. I think we need to let them see us and just to be able to maybe make some calmer, more sober judgments about it. Give them an opportunity where they're not necessarily at the center of the conversation and feeling the need to defend their turf. And maybe that'll help, if not open minds, get people to say, well, okay, I still disagree with everything they said, but I at least see the foundation for why they're saying and thinking what they're due. So I'm hoping that'll be the outcome. So if you would like to be a part of that, please email me at brigantiablackbird@protonmail.com, and let's start threshing out some details. Tell me what you would really like to bring to the forefront about your working with Loki. I want to hear it, and I want to make sure that we can bring this to other people. I think the time is now, and he's been nagging at me. So now I'm nagging you by extension. So do let me know, and I think that's what I've got for you today. Not a whole lot. That little coughing fit I had at the beginning of this discussion really did throw me off my game a bit. So my apologies. But yeah, main things today is that there's more pagans than Presbyterians. So yay us. That's good news. The State of the Union is that we are disunified. And, it's time to decide what we want to do about that. And it is time for the Lokians to claim their place in the sun. So have a great Friday. I will catch you guys in a later stream. I do still have the Avatar: The Last Airbender from Netflix review coming up. I'm glad I've waited this long to really bring that up, because people have needed to blow off some steam, and I think I'll be presenting a different viewpoint than what you might have seen in other reviews. So I will catch you on that sometime next week. And again, have a good Friday. Have a great weekend. See you later.